So I thought I'd make a little video for those of you who are wondering what I'm up to creatively at the moment. And this is a dress that I'm working on. This is the fourth dress of this type that I'm busy making. And this one is for one of my very, very dearest friends in the whole world. We've spent a lot of loving time together, and I thought I'd make her a special gift. And the other day she said to me, she can't believe I'm actually making her one of these. And I said to her that every single stitch is a great memory that I've enjoyed with her somewhere along the line. So the dress is one that she wore for quite some time, and it's a really comfortable cut and fit on her. And it became stretched out with wearing. It's made of a t-shirt fabric, and when a dress gets stretched out like that, then it gets a little bit bigger. So this technique is actually suitable, very suitable for it, because it tends to make the dress ever so slightly smaller. Now, you will notice over here that I have turned the dress inside out to put the finish over the top. This means that when it's finished, the inside is going to be very comfortable because there won't be any scratchy side seams. It just makes the whole thing smoother and nicer to wear afterwards. Now, I thought I'd tell you the story of some of these fabrics that I'm using because they're quite interesting. So this piece and this piece and this piece are all pantyhose, and they came from a stash of fabrics from a deceased estate. My partner's mom passed away, and I got all her old fabrics and things, and they were actually pantyhose. I like to work with stretch knits if I can for this technique because they're fabrics that don't fray as much as woven fabrics. Then this t-shirt over here I manufactured for a customer in 2001. They brought me these green t-shirts and asked me to tie-dye them in different ways. It was a business that did screen printing commercially, and they had gotten hold of a batch of t-shirts that had been badly sun damaged. And they were all this green color that was quite difficult to do anything with. And so I covered the sun-bleached marks with tie-dye so that they were no longer so visible, and this corporate client was then able to sell them on again. This blue-green fabric over here is from a sample from a job that I did in, I think, 2006 or so for a company that was making uniforms for hotels in Dubai. And we did some t-shirts and some aprons and some chef's jackets for the business at the time. That it was, again, a corporate clothing manufacturer in Johannesburg, and they then exported these garments to Dubai, to the hotels there. So this fabric is from one of those t-shirt samples that I made at the time. And you can actually see on this piece over here, there is some lettering that's printed on the fabric in a gold ink, kind of a bronzy colored ink. And my sister Linda Grace did the printing for this sampling. So we did two colorways. We did a sea green colorway, and we did a blue and purple colorway. And those are two t-shirts from that job. Then this dark blue over here, this navy blue, is from a sample from my book that I produced in 2010 called Contemporary Diecraft. It was one of the working samples from the book, and I wore this t-shirt until it was very thin and stretched out before I started to cut it up for this technique. This over here is also one of the samples from that same book. This t-shirt over here is something that I made in, I'd say, around 1996. It was a very favorite t-shirt that I had tie-dyed, and this is also from the same t-shirt, and I wore it a lot. It was one of my very favorites. It was one of my favorite colorways, and when it became all stretched and holey, I didn't have the courage to throw it away because I was so fond of it. So I saved it in the back of my cupboard, and eventually I cut it up and I'm stitching it into this dress. Then this fabric over here is also one of the working samples from my first book, Contemporary Die Craft. Over here we have fabric from the sleeve of a vest that I bought. This was a personal garment. I bought some vests at Woolworths, and then I tie-dyed them in colors that I liked, and I made it into a tie-dyed garment that I wore quite a lot. And I've actually upcycled that garment. I've connected the bottom and sleeves of that garment to a knitted top to make it longer, because this particular garment shrank in the length and became very, very short. So I don't enjoy wearing it with my midriff hanging out. So I've re-engineered that garment into something else, and then the leftover pieces of fabric I'm stitching into this dress over here. Then the friend that I'm making the dress for bought this costume at a thrift store, and she was very, very excited. She came home with it for me. She said, "I bought you a wonderful costume. You are going to wear it." And of course, I very, very, very seldom swim. I think the last time I swam in a swimming pool was probably more than a decade ago, possibly even more than 15 years ago. And I know I'm never, ever going to wear it. And she was so excited about buying it for me that I've kept it all this time. And eventually I've now cut it up and I'm putting it into her dress so that she can remember the day she walked in with it in joy for me. And she can see that I loved it very much, even though I'm never going to wear it. And then finally, this piece of fabric over here, I don't know if you can see the glitter on it, a bit of bling. This was a shiny fabric that I bought for myself to have a garment made. And it was kind of dip dyed. The whole piece of fabric was gently dip dyed from this green to kind of a more sea green at the bottom. And I had a friend of mine turn it into a dress, a tunic dress for me that I wore, which I subsequently gave away to somebody, I think, because I don't have it in my closet anymore. And then this was the leftover piece of fabric. So I've just stitched it in here to give the whole thing a little bit of a pop and a bit of a shine in the sunlight. And that's what it's starting to look like now. So I hope you enjoyed that story of all of the fabrics that I've stitched into this dress. I'm about halfway with it now, so I'm quite excited. These dresses take me anything from 3 to 6 months to make, depending on how much time I have to work on them. And although the bottom of the skirt takes a very, very, very long time, and the top is quicker to make, I find that finishing off the sleeves and the hemline often takes me a bit longer because it's really finicky work. So I'd say I probably have about another 3 months work on this dress at the current rate that I'm working on it. What I tend to do is when I'm watching a video on YouTube or something like that, or I'm listening to a podcast, then I sit sewing while I listen. So I really hope you've enjoyed the story of this dress, and I look forward to showing you one day when it's finished what it looks like.